Howdy, this is Tom, the Disabled Prepper. Welcome back. So this weekend I took a trip from Cheyenne to Buffalo to clear out a storage unit that I'd had up there for some time. And I crossed basically almost the entire state of Wyoming, other than like 10 miles on the south border and 20 miles or 40 miles on the northern border. But anyway, of course, across all of Wyoming you see the deer signs with the deer jumping, and it says, you know, whatever, 15 miles or caution wildlife 15 miles. It's always kind of cracked me up that it'll show, there'll be a sign 15 miles later there's another sign that says 15 miles later there's another sign. It's, well, basically the entire state of Wyoming is a deer crossing zone, so you just have to know that about Wyoming. And yeah, there are some times when it's safer than others to drive and not have to worry about deer, but generally speaking, of course, the antelope you don't have to worry about. The antelope got a little bit of brains God gave them, enough that they won't just automatically jump out in front of you like a moronic deer will. But deer are as dumb as a bag of rocks. And in the 4 years I lived up in Buffalo, I hit 2 deer. One of them just took out the fender and hood of my Pontiac, but the second one, and I'll have to tell you that story sometime, took out the entire front end and radiator of my Toyota 4Runner. Anyway, so I'm coming back from Buffalo doing about 70, and it's about a 5-hour trip. And I'm checking both sides of the roads. I'm being very, very careful because I don't want to hit a deer, you know, doing 70 miles an hour with between car and trailer having over 6,000 pounds. I mean, that would have been really ugly, believe me. Or, well, probably closer to about 5,000 pounds, to be honest. Anyway, or to be more accurate. So anyway, so for anyone who's watched for deer for 5 hours straight, you know that it's really, really tiring. Your eyes just get to the point to where you can't focus, and you have to be able to stay alert. You have to be vigilant. And as I was making this trip, of course, my mind wandered a little bit, and I started thinking of some things, and the phrase eternal vigilance came up. Now, initially, most people believe that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance is a quote done by Thomas Jefferson, when in fact my research shows that that's not actually the case. Now I'll put a link below. I went to Monticello.org, which is Thomas Jefferson's home, so to speak, and the organization that keeps his legacy, so to speak. So anyway, you can read that if you want to follow up on where that quote kind of generally came from. But point being is that eternal vigilance is necessary for the preservation of liberty. It's also necessary to ensure you don't total your car by hitting a stupid deer. But anyway, so why do I bring this up? Why do I talk about deer and eternal vigilance? Well, because by the time I got home 5+ hours later, I did stop about halfway and got a coffee just to get my eyes, you know, a bit of a rest. But anyway, eternal vigilance is difficult. It's very hard to keep your eyes going constantly to make sure that you remain as safe as you can. Now, eternal vigilance, of course, is vital to liberty, and the United States had the conservatives, the people that, the patriots, the citizens that want to preserve our country, they lost a lot of vigilance in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and I'm not saying, you know, anybody in particular. Everybody likes to blame us boomers now because we were the ones who let the country go to hell. But let's just say it was kind of a combined effort by multiple generations. Anyway, point being is that eternal vigilance is really difficult, but it is necessary. So what do you do when you don't have, when you have to stop and you have to get your eyes off of something in order to rest because you're almost going blind being vigilant. Well, that's where community comes in. That's where your militia comes in. That's where the foundations that our country was built on come in, and that is community, which is your neighbors, your fellow citizens, patriots that have a vested interest in preserving the republic. When one gets tired, he can no longer watch the road. The next one can take over, and while he rests his eyes, while the first one rests his eyes. That's why now with this whole COVID thing, that this breakup of community, this loss of interaction with our fellow human beings, we're not meeting at the tavern any longer, having a beer discussing politics. We're not getting with our family members and talking about the problems they're having, what do we need to support them, how can we help them. We're not having nearly as much interaction with our co-workers. Our community, our nation is dissolving by lack of interaction. We're losing even more vigilance than we've already lost over the last few decades. So what we need to do is we need to get back together with others. We need to we need to reconnect with our society. We need to talk to our co-workers. We need to talk to our family members. We need to join a militia. We need to get back together with our social service groups. We need to stop social distancing. Now there's enough ambient evidence, for lack of a better expression, that I have at this moment. There's enough ambient evidence to prove that most of what is happening with COVID right now is political and not scientific or health related at all. Yeah, okay, they said that the cases in Arizona shot up 300%, but the number of dying dropped by like 80% or whatever. So yeah, maybe more people are getting sick, or they're proven that they actually have the virus, but far less people are dying from it now. But anyway, point being is that if we want to preserve our society, this social distancing needs to end. We need to get back together. We need to sharpen each other up with our interactions, and we need to save our country. We need to save our society. We need to save our families, and we need to fight for that. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting thing that formed in my mind as I was blinding myself watching out for deer. And by the way, I didn't hit any. I did almost hit a buck outside of Gillette, Wyoming, and I had a antelope stick its head out around a corner just as my headlights hit its head, so to speak, and it backed off and it didn't run out in front of me. So I did have a couple of close calls this weekend, but I didn't hit anything because for the most part I was vigilant. And that's what we need to be. We need to get back to taking care of our country, taking care of each other, and we need to fight to stay together. Okay, anyway, I appreciate you watching my videos. I'm trying to get more and more happening together. Remember to like, share, subscribe if you think the information has value. And remember to always keep your nose in the wind and your eyes along the skyline. Till we meet again. Bye.